Hi all. Today the topic that I chose is about my guru and how I got introduced to him, or rather how he just came into my life. So I think I was in my sixth or seventh standard, and one afternoon I prominently remember one of our very far off friends, one of the uncles, he got this strange looking guy along with him, and it was like afternoon time. And then he went and spoke to my parents, and he was talking something about this guy, about something like he has some powers, and he keeps communicating directly with the Shirdi Sai Baba and all that stuff. So at that point of time, I didn't know who Shirdi Sai Baba was. Nothing. I had no clue. So then we were called out there, and then we were introduced to this person. And my first impression about my guru at that point of time was like, very eccentric looking fellow. He was like 30 or 32 years old at that point of time. And very lanky, and he was like making some signs, and he was talking to it's like he was communicating with somebody. His hands were like constantly doing that, and he very thin, and so I was not really impressed. So I just looked at him and I thought, okay, some character. And being in that teenage, sixth, seventh class, so it was very, I was trying, I mean, I was kind of looking better and looking good at, because, that's a very young age. And I was very arrogant in life because, the typical thing, like, boys were following, and life was really happening and all that. Back then in sixth and seventh, also, we had people who would follow, and, we knew that we had some fans and admirers and whatever. So I was in that kind of a zone where, I was more interested in beauty and, school and fun, frolic, all that. So, when I looked at this guy, I was like, whatever. Very arrogant, and I didn't want to really pay any attention to him. But then this chap, he just looked at me. This chap means my guru. He just looked at me, and then he said, You don't remember me? And I'm like, what is he talking? Who is this guy? What is this? What should I remember about him? He said, so many births of association. How come you don't remember me? I said, well, I don't remember you. Then he just smiled, and then he looked at my parents and he said, she is my daughter. I'm going to take care of her. I'm going to perform her wedding. She's completely my responsibility. And that kind of cheesed me off, because I was like, who's this stranger in my house? And what is this? What is this? This guy's talking like I'm his daughter, and he's going to be responsible for my life. My parents are still alive. Why should this guy talk all these things? So my first reaction was I was getting irked. I was getting really cheesed off with him, and I just wanted to leave that room. But then my parents were like, okay, this person is like a very divine person and all that. And then they said, why don't you bow down and why don't you touch his feet? And I was like, why am I supposed to touch some stranger's feet? If he calls himself as a divine guy, how are these guys even trusting? What is the proof that he is really communicating with some other entity like Shri Sai Baba, etc., etc.? So a lot of thoughts. But yeah, with great reluctance, I bowed down and I touched his feet. And so that was my first association with my guru. So I seriously didn't remember anything about our past, and what kind of an association we had and all that. It was totally erased, I guess. So then, he would come on and off, and each time he would come, I would really escape and I would run away, because I didn't want to have any kind of a boring conversation where he would mostly talk about Shirdi Sai Baba, his powers, and this and that. And I would be more interested in, what my homeworks were, more interested in how I would be dressing up to school next day and what are my activities. So just sitting and listening about spirituality or about Baba, These things were really boring for me. So every time Guruji would visit us, I would definitely make it a point not to even, cross his path. But then he's a guru, right? So one day he just called me and he said, what is it like, why don't you want to listen about Sai Baba and all that? And I was like, I said, see, Sai Baba, if you're really looking at some Sai Baba and he's a divine entity, etc., etc., maybe he's visible to you, maybe because you are very pious or you're very great. I'm not like that. I'm a very ordinary person. So, the Baba that you're talking about, maybe, he would not even be an iota of interest, also, he'll not have in me because I'm not worth it. I'm not into the zone. Just let me be. So he said, what will you do if you see Sai Baba? I said, me and seeing some Sai Baba, I don't even know who he is. And I was like, no, I was getting slightly angry, and I thought maybe he's kind of ridiculing me because I thought I was 100% sure I'm not going to see any Sai Baba and all. Then I said, see, if it happens and when it happens, we will talk. Right now, I feel that it's impossible for a person like me to see somebody who you are saying so great like Sai Baba. Then he said, okay, I'll come tomorrow and then you tell me your experiences. And he left. I was like, whatever madness this is. So that night when I slept in our room, we always had this calendar of Hanuman because we were two girls and nights sometimes maybe we would get scared or get nightmares. So my mom kept that Hanuman's calendar in our bedroom, and she would tell us that if you suddenly wake up in the night and you're feeling scared, just look at the calendar and just pray and you'll feel better. Psychologically, it'll help you. So in my dream, I got a dream, and then in my dream, like always, I was just looking at that Hanuman calendar, and suddenly the whole face is kind of changing, and I'm like, what's happening? Why is Hanuman's face completely? It's getting changed, and it is getting converted into something else. So I'm like, okay, and in the dream, then I see that from that Hanuman's face and all some other faces being formed, and then I see this huge personality in a white kafni, the typical Sai Baba's white robe, and he just comes out of the calendar. And I'm like, in the dream, I think that's the first time I saw Shirdi Sai Baba. So I am like, ecstatic, and I'm just looking at Baba, and then I looked at his feet. They looked huge and they looked so bright, and so I touched his feet in my dream, and then the first thing, I mean, when he looked at me, he uttered something which was not very pleasant. In the sense, he was telling something. The message that he was giving was like, henceforth, your life is going to be really tough, and however tough it is, I will kind of take care of you. So that was the gist of the message. So that's it. So next day morning, I just got up, and in bits and pieces, I did remember about the dream, and I was like, okay, something happened last night. Okay, I saw this, whatever. So by 9 in the morning or 9:30, something like that, I think, yeah, Guruji came home, and then he looked at me and he said, so, did you see Sai Baba? Then I was like a little, okay, now I need not be so arrogant. So I said, yep, I saw, but I don't think so. I got a very pleasant message. He said something like, life is going to completely be like a roller coaster ride, and things are going to get really tough for me. And but whatever, he's going to watch my back and take care of me and all that. So after that, I mean, just like how he kind of cautioned me in the dream, things really started falling apart on the domestic front. There were certain unpleasant things happening at home between mom, dad, and suddenly a happy family was kind of becoming very troublesome, and equations were going haywire in the house. And so as kids, it was becoming very, very challenging for us because the home environment was not very healthy. So we had, I mean, in such a young age, we had to kind of fight a lot of emotional battles and balance relationships, and it was very, very, very depressing and very, very tiring, because we had to go to school also and then come back home, and the house environment, whatever was happening between mom, dad, and others. I really can't get into those details, but it was not a pleasant thing for me and for my sister. So it was very, very a kind of a traumatic stage for both of us, because till then we were a happy family, very, very cozy, comfortable, and suddenly, like a storm, everything was going haywire, and we had to deal with a lot of stress, a lot of emotional stress. So that was the time, I understood that I'm kind of getting emotionally dependent on my guru. Then I would seek solace in his company. So my Guruji was like, he would never come and directly support me or, counsel me or anything. He would just from a distance keep watching as to how I'm handling all these battles. So this is my introduction with my Guru. And not only with my Guru, this is also the time where I got introduced to Shirdi Sai Baba. Till then, I didn't even know that someone like this existed. So it was my Guru who kind of introduced me to Shirdi Sai Baba. So I will come back and tell you what lovely experiences I had of Baba Garu, the dreams, the visions, and sometimes how I even heard his voice, and how, whatever he said happened in my life. So I think for now, this is it.